Howdy viewers, Bobby Brown here, Guns and Drums and sometimes Civil War. On to the final and third letter. Now if you've made it to this third letter, you're obviously a Civil War geek just like I am. Or maybe you're just curious. You know, we all know about the Jeb Stuarts and the big famous Robert E. Lees, and let's not forget the Union heroes like U.S. Grant. But sometimes it's just the little guy, and the guy that you never even heard of, that really emerges as the real heroes. So, let's get on to James H. Rutledge, a carpenter, a very dedicated carpenter, dedicated to the cause. Whatever that cause was, he was certainly dedicated. On to this next letter, you'll see it is actually addressed a little differently. Dear Mother. Let's go to the transcribed copy. Dear Mother, I again take occasion to write you a few lines which will inform you that Father and myself are well. He has been transferred to our company and getting on finely. When I got to my regiment last Tuesday, it was ready to start to Fredericksburg, Virginia, where we started about dark and arrived at Lynchburg next morning. About 12 o'clock, we left here and kept coming until we got to Hamilton's Crossing, 4 miles from Fredericksburg, day before yesterday. And we stayed there all night before last. And while we were there all night, oops, I skipped a line. And while we were there, I saw several soldiers I have been acquainted with. I saw cousins Sean Ziegler, Martin and Gary Rutledge, Peter Dalton, Billy Shelton, Billy Frazier, and others. They are all looking well. Pause. Side note, we know from our census that Ziegler was his mother's maiden name. Of course, Rutledge was probably relative to his dad. So back to here. The soldiers are looking finely in this grand army. They have been lying in camp doing nothing for a long time. They are, however, expecting to go to work soon now. Our grand army is encamped up and down one side of the Rappahannock and the enemy on the other. Their pickets and ours talk with each other across the river. They are fondly towards each other. A great many of them know each other's names. They trade a little with each other. Some of our company have been at the river and seen them. I expect the 50th Regiment is permanently assigned to this division of the Army. I have no idea any of us will come home before this war ends. Oh, tell Buck Thompson I saw Tilghman and he is well and camped close to us. Your neighbor's boys are all well. You must all do the best you can. Make all the grain you can. You must write soon and often. Your affectionate son, James H. Rutledge, 50th Virginia Regiment, 2nd Brigade of Tremble's Division in Jackson's Corps. Howdy viewers, Bobby Brown. So now you know we're all Civil War geeks if we've made it this far. And you'll also know probably that things are fixing to get pretty hot around Fredericksburg. You can tell in the tone of his voice that he was trying to make things sound real calm at the end. And of course we've all heard stories about him bartering tobacco for sugar or coffee or whatever. So I think this letter really sums up all the things that we heard about in our history books. Brother fighting brother, cousin fighting cousin. This letter here, dated, man, I hope you can see that. It says camp near Franklin, Southampton County, Virginia, February 4th, 1863. Now keep in mind that this letter that I just read to you, the one that was from Camp Corbin's Neck, Virginia, April 11th, 1863, Dear Mother. This is just days before James is actually promoted to sergeant and not long before he meets his demise because he died on May the 3rd. So, right here in this letter we find some curious information. And it says, whoops, I've lost my place. There it is. It says, I'm really struggling to read this, but this was the clue for his father. Let me find it. I'm going to have to cut this out. Oh, here it is. To my astonishment and something regret, I heard that Father had substituted for Taylor. Taylor. This is his dad, James Rutledge's Elias Taylor would have been 15 years old. So Dad substituted so the youngest son didn't have to go. Pretty cool stuff, huh? Unfortunately, Dad met his demise at Gettysburg. But the story gets thicker and pretty deep. Hang around. I'm going to tell you more about it. Okay, so we now know that James H. Rutledge and his dad, James Sr., are in the same infantry unit, possibly fighting side by side. The place where James H. fell was the hallowed grounds known as Hazel Grove, outside of Chancellorsville, Virginia. And of course, Stonewall Jackson was wounded on May 2nd. James H. was killed on the 3rd. The fighting in and around Hazel Grove was really intense, and sometimes it slides under the history book's radar, but unfortunately that's where James H. Rutledge was killed, and likely his father witnessed it. On July the 2nd, Gettysburg, James Sr. bites the bullet at Gettysburg. A family story that has now been told. James H. Rutledge of the 50th Infantry Company K, Virginia. I had this made for him while I was recently in Fredericksburg, and with the help of a park ranger, I came pretty close to where I believe he was actually gunned down. Now, my loyalties are neither with the North or the South. I am a weirdo. I am a Yankee raised in the North by Southern parents with 3 Southern sisters. Somewhere along the line I got really interested in the Civil War because of the ironies. And the ironies are many. It's a great historical subject. I hope you enjoyed the letters, and if you're a Civil War buff like me, I think you probably did. Rest in peace, James H. Rutledge. Rest in peace, James Rutledge Sr. Thank you for your service.